Welcome to the AM Update, Week in Review. A collection of the best moments from Aaron McIntyre's morning update.
Former CDC Director Dr. Robert Redfield joined Dr. Drew Pinsky to talk about the COVID jabs and mRNA technology. I am not allowing Robert Redfield to escape any sort of accountability for what he did, his role, or lack thereof. He seems now to be, and ever since he left his role as CDC director, he seems to have been a whole skeptic about public health in general. Since that time, it would have been nice if he had been more skeptical when he actually had power. But here he is with Dr. Drew Pinsky talking about the future of mRNA technology. Listen to this.
I think the mRNA technology will no longer be used for preventive vaccines within a couple years. I do think the mRNA technology will be used for treating serious disease, like you mentioned, cancer.
Sure.
I think the reality is when we give an mRNA to a healthy individual, we don't, and in the case of COVID, we co-opt the body to make spike protein, which is an immunotoxic protein. We have no idea how much you're going to make. We don't know how long you're going to make it. These are things that I think the FDA should have been much more aggressive in having defined. Maybe, I was part of Warp Speed's board. Maybe when we were losing 3,000 people a day, there was an emergency we were trying to respond to. And these vaccines, in my view, do change mortality and morbidity for highly vulnerable individuals. But they don't have a benefit, in my view, for people who aren't highly vulnerable. So therefore, people under the age of 50, children, they really probably never should have been pushed in that direction. This is part of government overreach. Tony had a sort of a blind belief that these vaccines could only be good. And he didn't see the downside. You're in practice, I'm in practice. A significant percentage of my practice, maybe 5 to 10% of it now, is vaccine injury from the mRNA vaccines. And those injuries are very real, and they're really problematic. So I do agree with you. It's about a risk-benefit ratio, and for a preventive initiative, I think the favor is not in this new technology. For someone that has a very serious cancer, it probably is in this technology. But Tony was very embedded in the mRNA technology. I mean, as you know, NIH was very involved in it with Moderna, and it did lead to certain statements that he made, which I felt were unfortunate, where he told the American public, if you disagree with me, you disagree with science. And my argument to him, Tony, I don't disagree with science. I disagree with you.
There is former CDC Director Robert Redfield. Translation for you, and I quote, mRNA COVID vaccines suck. They are trash, end quote. That's the translation from former CDC Director Robert Redfield, who, by the way, also was on the board for Operation Warp Speed, which developed the mRNA COVID jabs. Very critical of the COVID jabs now. Very critical of Anthony Fauci now. I want to know, did he show an ounce of that skepticism during a time when he had sway, power, say, while he was heading up the CDC, while he was on the board of Operation Warp Speed? Did he say any of that to Tony Fauci's face? Any of that? And now he is here, absolutely all over the mRNA COVID jabs. How many days have you woken up on X? We've got these weird cases of cancer amongst the youth. Children getting cancers that usually only septuagenarians and octogenarians get. 20, 30-year-olds getting turbo cancers, whatever those are. And it's just a mystery wrapped inside of an enigma. It's ridiculous. We would have been better served had people like Robert Redfield actually expressed an ounce of the skepticism you just heard him proclaim there.
You're listening to the AM Update, Week in Review. Follow on X and Instagram at @RealAMUpdate.
I think there's one change that the Trump administration should make overnight. and they had been doing a great job at this, except for the past few weeks. Not sure what's happened. But this man needs to be in front of the cameras, I believe, every single day. Last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, I criticized Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent for doing a little bit of the Tokyo Rose, Baghdad Bob act when it came to the economy. Trump is out there now a couple of times in the last week doing kind of the same thing that the Biden administration was doing, basically saying, don't believe what you feel with your pocketbooks, don't believe what you see with your eyes, don't believe what you see or hear with your ears. I don't want to hear about affordability. I don't believe the polls. I think we have the greatest economy. Treasury Secretary Bessent did a little bit better job this week, but this is the best economic messaging I've heard out of the White House. And we go back once again to White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller on the affordability crisis.
I need to answer it. What is next for the economic plan for this president? We're focusing relentlessly on affordability. So President Trump's working to bring down the cost of living even more than he already has. So Thanksgiving meals are going to be 25% cheaper. But President Trump is not content with that. He is fighting to bring down the cost of every single consumer and household good. And the tax bill is going to be a huge part of this. Because when we make life more affordable for our companies, for domestic industry, for domestic manufacturing, with the 100% expensing, with the largest tax cuts in history, then prices are going to keep coming down. This also involves energy affordability. No president in history has done more, Larry, you know this so well, to make energy more affordable. President Trump is leaning into energy affordability. We are building new pipelines for the first time in the northeastern corridor of this country. You've seen that we have a major pipeline that's moving through, the Nessie pipeline, more to come. And the president is also making nuclear energy, modern, safe, reliable, clean nuclear energy to power the future. He issued 4 historic executive orders on nuclear energy. America will be the center of the nuclear energy renaissance in this country. And one more thing, Larry, AI. America under President Trump is the AI capital of the world. That's bringing in trillions of investment. That's bringing in millions of jobs. That's raising our standard of living. We are at the precipice of one of the great economic periods in the whole history of this country, Larry.
There's White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller. The dude needs to be in front of the cameras every single day. He exudes confidence. That's the number one thing. Because what I've been hearing from some of the messengers from the Trump administration over the past couple of weeks, particularly when it comes to economic issues, is some doubt just in the way that they present themselves in their voice. So number one, Stephen Miller exudes confidence there. Number two, he points to specific things, specific factoids, and specific time frames. Thanksgiving. It's the White House's belief. Thanksgiving is going to be cheaper on average this year, and that's according to the Walmart CEO, who said the typical Thanksgiving meal going to be 25% less. People have come back and said, well, that's because you've taken items out of the typical Thanksgiving meal. But it's our belief that Thanksgiving is going to be less expensive this year. But he also didn't stop there. That's not good enough. President Trump is not content with that. And then he pointed to the future. Here's a few months down the road. Your tax situation is going to look a lot nicer. Most Americans' tax situations are going to look a lot nicer by April and May. There will be more disposable income from the tax refunds. You're probably going to adjust your withholding, so you're going to have more take-home pay. And then energy affordability. That's a major part. Prices are coming down. Unleashing nuclear energy. These things are going to take time, but they are coming. They are on the precipice. He's not pussyfooting around here. He's not BSing. He's not doing the Baghdad Bob thing. He is painting a picture of optimism with specific time frames and specific factoids that people can either weigh and measure themselves. That is some good messaging, because it's adult messaging. He's not trying to just blow smoke in your face. Not trying to say that every single fart smells like roses. That's not what he's saying there. He is just pointing a picture of confident optimism that things are going to get better. And he's providing specific time frames for that to happen. So that is good messaging economically coming out of the White House. This is Florida Surgeon General Joe Ladapo. at the Children's Health Defense Moment of Truth conference just this past weekend. Talking about when it comes to the health industry, quote unquote, health industry, when it comes to the truth, and when it comes to what's best for the human condition, we've got some challenges on the way. Listen to this, Florida Surgeon General Joe Ladapo.
The biggest challenge that humanity is facing is really a fight for and a struggle for freedom, like what we are entitled for. And all of these forces, including, frankly, a lot of the reporters I saw reporters from Washington Post and The Atlantic that represent these forces that, and I have nothing against them, but, just to be clear, they represent forces who are working toward the enslavement of humanity. And and they have tremendous power, but the power that each of us has far outspans that. It's just a matter of being able to tap into it.
So that is Florida Surgeon General Joe Ladapo speaking in broad terms right there about the battle that everyone is up against and embroiled in, whether they want to be or not. And Joe Ladapo, I've featured clips from him before. He's been an expert. I mean, he's just a very well-spoken man, very smart individual, whip-smart individual, with a smile on his face at all times, on matters of public health. And it takes a lot of courage, and he's shown a lot of courage over the last 5 years.
You're listening to the AM Update, Week in Review. Follow on X and Instagram at Real AM Update.
I've told you, I think the most wealthy man in the world, the wealthiest man in the world, Elon Musk, is in the funnel for Christianity. Here he is talking about Jesus Christ recently.
I believe in the teachings of Christ. I believe, that he's I believe in the Christian principles. Love thy neighbor. I believe in turn the other cheek, which is very important to have forgiveness. Because if you don't have forgiveness, then you have an endless cycle of retribution.
Dude, that is Elon Musk. He's no longer in the funnel. He's getting down towards the bottom of the funnel. But here's the dangerous part for Elon Musk. And this is why we need to pray for him and any unbeliever who we know or think is getting close to a decision. A few people brought up this quote from C.S. Lewis in Mere Christianity. And I think it's apropos here. Elon Musk talking. He understands why forgiveness is necessary. And he understands the uniqueness about the Christian faith and why forgiveness is central to it. He understands that. That is great. He says, I believe in the teachings of Christ. I believe in the Christian principles. Here's what C.S. Lewis says in Mere Christianity. Quote, I'm trying here to prevent anyone from saying the really foolish thing that people often say about him. I'm ready to accept Jesus as a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. That's one thing we must not say. A man who was merely a man and said the sort of things Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He would either be a lunatic on level with the man who says he is a poached egg, or else he'd be the devil of hell. You must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman, or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool, you can spit at him and kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come up with any patronizing nonsense about his being a great human teacher. He has not left that open to us. He did not intend to. So here's Elon Musk at the bottom of the funnel. What is this funnel that we talked about? When you're outside the funnel, you say that you're an atheist, an agnostic. Christianity is kind of amoral. It's neither here nor there. Don't let it get into my business. Don't let it get in my way. And then when you enter the funnel, you start to see and say things like, I'm not a Christian myself, but I can understand why it's necessary for a lot of people. I understand the Christian principles, and I'm not opposed to it. Just don't let it get in the way of my sin, my lifestyle. Further down the funnel, you start to see and say things like, well, I do understand Christianity now, and I understand why a moral framework that Christianity teaches is important for society. And I understand that, and I think that's important. And you know what? In fact, I support it now. And then further down the funnel, you see and say things like, you know what? I understand why Christian morality is important for the individual, but it's important for those individuals. We here in the elite need to recognize that and promote those values. And then you get further down the funnel. Well, I believe the teachings of Christ. I believe in Christian principles. I believe in forgiveness. But it's when you truly exit the funnel and you become born again. That's the point where you'll say, Jesus Christ is Lord. Jesus Christ is King. And man, it sounds like Elon Musk is really close to that. Pray for him.
You're listening to the AM Update, Week in Review. Follow on X and Instagram at Real AM Update.
And finally, it's time for our poll of the week. I asked you, for the foreseeable future, should President Trump focus exclusively on domestic issues in his presidency? Domestic issues. I left it fairly purposefully ambiguous. So for the next 12 months, let's say 12 months, now until the midterms, focus and message exclusively on domestic issues for the next 12 months. Gave you 3 options. Yes, no, it doesn't. Actually, 4 options. Yes, no, it doesn't matter, and I don't care. In last place, I don't care was at 5.1%. That's good. I'm glad you care. I'm glad you're engaged. In third place, no, President Trump shouldn't focus and message exclusively on domestic issues for the next 12 months at 8.5%. In second place, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if he does. Doesn't matter if he doesn't. We're kind of cooked, or whatever happens. You could take that a lot of different ways. It doesn't matter. Came in second place at 18%. And in first place, yes, this should be President Trump's exclusive focus. The United States of America and its domestic issues. 68.4% agree with that. Here's what you had to say. Redacted says, I voted it doesn't matter, and people believe mainstream media talking points and average Americans are too ignorant to understand the issues at hand regarding affordability and the economy and all the problems at play. In reality, it should be 90% domestic, 10% international, in my opinion. You know, those are some good points. Yeah, I think the average American, unfortunately, is just not into being a citizen and understanding how things happen over the long haul. The average American, unfortunately, just wants quick fixes, just wants their Happy Meal fast food in terms of policy. And that's just, I'm sorry, that I think is just the reality. So I hope you're wrong. I hope that there is some amount of persuasion via policy that can happen here, but I think you're probably over the mark there. Craig Willoughby says, I voted yes, but it probably doesn't matter. Light the Dark says, imagine if I told you we're going to use more power and land that we would use to make ourselves an energy and manufacturing powerhouse, except we're going to produce nothing but hallucinating transhumanist AI slop. Well, that's what's happening, so I guess it doesn't matter. I still don't quite understand how, I get the chatbot thing. Sometimes it's helpful. I think we're maybe hitting a wall of how helpful it can be. But I still don't understand in terms of how this is going to be some sort of miraculous, second or third industrial revolution, which is kind of the way that it's been painted in a lot of sectors, especially the tech sector. I don't understand how AI is going to do that yet. I don't. I can see how it can boost productivity, but not to the extent that it's going to be some sort of revolutionary phenomenon. I don't understand, and I haven't heard it articulated how that's going to be the case. A to B says, shutter the State Department. Send Rubio on hiatus. Let the chips fall where they may, because that's the essence of yes, focusing domestically on domestic issues. An administration that can't effectively walk and chew bubblegum at the same time doesn't deserve to be in office. Well, I purposely left these as vague as possible, just so it would have the widest variance of how people took those. But I don't think exclusive focus on domestic issues doesn't mean that you put the State Department on hiatus or Rubio on hiatus. It just means that your main focus, your only focus, is domestic issues. No more messing around in Israeli politics, asking for a pardon for Bibi Netanyahu. No, your focus is 100% on the United States of America, just for 12 months. Scott says it doesn't matter. It's about the results. You can message all you want. It's the actions that matter. He has a team that is pretty good to handle both domestic and foreign issues. Let him walk and chew gum. You know what? That's good. That's a good answer. Ultimately, it is going to be the actions that they take. Now, I think you may be downplaying the role of the bully pulpit in forming and keeping narratives. Narratives are important. But ultimately, yes, it's going to be the actions of this administration that people are going to feel or not feel at the end of the day. Gary says, can't print your way to prosperity. There's no appetite for doing any sort of reforms. Best advice I got from an older gentleman who made substantial wealth told me, assets for everything and money doesn't mean crap. I think he's spot on. Gary, thank you for your input and sharing that.
This has been the AM Update Week in Review. The AM Update will be back on Monday and every weekday at 4 a.m. Eastern Time.